Welcome to T-Bone's Best of Roanoke show. Music, comedy, and conversation featuring HB, the Honey Badger.
Honey Badger don't care.
Now, on with the show.
All right, boom, 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 boom. Let's get started, HB.
Yes, sir.
This is Radio Free Roanoke, and this is episode 182, T-Bone's Best of Roanoke show. HB, I've seen them in the St. Patrick's Day parade for many, many years, the Vikings of the Valley. And lo and behold, here they are today.
SKOL. Yeah.
SKOL.
Yeah.
And let me introduce you to three of the members, and then we'll get into your history, your culture, your education, because you do so much for the kids, the schools, the festivals, and much more. But Jeff Rigdon,
yes,
son John Rigdon,
yeah,
and Matt Split Melling.
correct.
Now, before we go any further, Matt Split.
Yeah.
I saw that and I thought, there's got to be more to it. Is that splitting bananas or what?
No, well, and just to be clear, I had the name before the movie came out. Okay.
Oh, really?
When I was younger, working in the East Coast at a car wash, old black man out in the yard, he requested some towels, and he yelled into the tunnel where I was folding towels, and he said, "Hey, yo, split lip, bring me some more of those towels." Now, I do have a crease right in the middle of my bottom lip, hence the name Split Lip.
All right.
So that's kind of the origins of that, and that name I've just kind of carried with me for half my life now at this point.
Well, welcome, all of you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we'll get into the educational stuff and your mission and your vision and all that stuff. But first things first, we have a crack research team, and when they were looking at your Facebook page, there was one phrase that jumped to my eye. And here's what it was. It says, we live large and we like to laugh out loud. Yeah. That's a very compelling come on. So tell us a little bit about when did you get started and what is an overview of what Vikings of the Valley is?
Well, live large and laugh out loud. Enjoy your moments in time. Our whole life is a series of moments. We see our better moments as something we want to extend. Our less fun moments we want to minimize and move them out of our consciousness and hold on to those that bring forth joy in life. We see our whole life as this concept of weal and woe, joy and sorrow. You're going to have both. You could have them in the same moment, but you'll want to hold on to the joy and let the sorrow go away. So that's our concept of life. We know it's going to be here. We accept that. We know that we're going to have to deal with things, but then we move on. And we hold on to those moments that really mean something to us. Vikings of the Valley began by a sequence of events in a series of events in time based on education. My background is entomology. I came to Roanoke in 1993 to become a training director and regional manager for a large regional pest management company. And as soon as I got here, my children got into school. John was 6 at that time. I started doing educational programs at the school on insects, basic entomology. I spiced that up around 1998 by adding dragon slaying into the equation.
That's a little bit of a leap.
A little bit. A dragon slayer. A dragon slayer is a glorified exterminator.
Oh.
The key is to know your pest, have knowledge of them, pick the right circumstances and weapons to deal with it. Now, if you think you're Beowulf and you can stand up to the dragon, good luck. Beowulf dies. Sigurd, on the other hand, known as the great dragon slayer in the Nibelungenlied and the Wagner sagas, the operas, he hides in a crevice in the ground and waits for the dragon to go over the top of him and stabs him in the stomach, and he survives the encounter.
Cunning.
Your choice. Yeah. Do you want to be the hero and die, or do you want to be the hero and live? Okay. Well, in pest management, you're dealing with poisons. You personally are dealing with poisons. So you want to minimize your risk and risk to the environment. So you want to go through a process of sanitation, exclusion, extermination. Clean up the area, make it less provocative, less available to pest species. Doesn't mean trash, but it could be. Cutting back trees and not letting things touch your house so you don't have a bridge. Little things, but exclusion, close things up so that they can't get in the first place. And then make wise choices of what pesticides you're going to use, both for you, the customer, and the environment. So that was our program. The dragon slaying came into it just so I could spice things up, make it a little more interesting, although bugs are incredibly interesting to everyone. Yeah. But it was mostly to bring out the child in the man or woman. And myths and legends are just about that. That's the magic in our world. And what's more magical than a dragon? Yeah. And it's all throughout our history, our sagas, and in Western culture. Also Eastern culture. There's not a culture on the face of this earth that was ever recorded that don't have stories of dragons. This is a truth. So, by incorporating that concept into my programs, I started to accumulate things that would be worn by a dragon slayer. Helmet, sword, spear, shield, that type of thing. And that was going on for a while. And my son John would go to some of these programs with me and participate in these educational programs at the schools. And I was welcomed in every school. It didn't matter what it was. Yeah. You develop a relationship. People see who you are and what your mission is and why you're doing this.
Well, the other schools got jealous of, that they heard about the programs that were happening there. And so the other classes would want to do it. So it started off, he would just do it for my class or my brother's or my sister's class.
So everybody wanted a piece of the dragon.
Yeah. So even after we had left that elementary school, they would be inviting him back years later, even though he didn't have any kids that went to that school. They'd still be doing this program.
In fact, we just did one for my granddaughter at Grandin Court Elementary. Yes. That her mother had gone to the same school, and some of those teachers were still there, and my granddaughter told him about her grandfather, and they said, "Oh yeah, we know him. Will he come and do a program?" No problem. So just before they left school, they gave me an option of 3 different days. I said, "I'll do all 3. I'll do a different program on every day. I'll do the insects, I'll do Vikings, and I'll do dragons, mythological creatures."
In Chinese astrology, 2024 is the year of the dragon. Mm-hmm. All right, so you went from insects to dragons, and
then local colors.
Pearl food.
I'm from San Francisco. I grew up in a multicultural environment. My whole life I was surrounded by the world. The world was at my doorstep, and I loved it. I came to the South in the military, and I was stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. When I got out, I went into Charlotte, never left the South. I've lived here ever since I was 21 years old. So I found local colors because either my son or one of my daughters brought me a newspaper article from the Roanoke Times that showed in 2005 an individual with a Viking ship that he was going to bring to the festival of local colors, which I had never heard of. Never heard of local colors. I really wasn't involved in Roanoke. I lived in Roanoke, but it wasn't my town, wasn't my city, wasn't my home. I just lived here. I wasn't involved. Went to the schools, but that doesn't make you involved in the community. Right. So I saw the article, read it. I called the guy up and said, "Hey, I'm Jeff Rigdon. This is what I do." And he goes, "Wonderful. Could we borrow some of your stuff for the people that are going to be in the parade?" I said, "Sure, no problem. We got helmets and things like that I can loan to you." Then he calls me back and says, "Hey, would you like to be in the parade?" I said, "Sure. I've never done this before. I'd like to do that. I've never been in a parade before." Yeah. And so that came about. The man's name was Wally Post. He lived in Bedford on a goat farm, fainting goats and all kinds of goats. It was hilarious. So we got to know each other. I did the parade with him, brought my children with me. John wasn't with me on that. You didn't do the first one, I don't think.
Probably not. He was the president of the Sons of Norway.
Eventually, but that was eventually. Oh, wow. But Wally was a past president. In fact, he had started this group called the Sons of Norway, which is a fraternal group around the United States based on insurance for Scandinavian people, so that they weren't taken advantage of when they first came across. It was in the 1800s.
Huge in Minnesota.
Yeah, huge. Yeah. In Wisconsin and Iowa, wherever you have the Scandinavian people. Yes. Which all of that area kind of looks like huge Denmark. It's in the lowlands of Sweden. I mean, it looks exactly like that. So, so Wally Post and he had already built this Viking ship. It's like 14 feet long for kids to get into. It's actually a kayak that he built up and turned it into a Viking boat, put a dragon head and tail on it and a mast, and it actually did float at one time. We actually had it in the Roanoke River. Had 2 of my daughters sacrificed to put in there. And, well, if they drown, I got 2 more, so it's okay.
We'll make more.
So it was fun. It was enjoyable. Went in my Viking gear. The girls were all dressed up, and we enjoyed the moment. Well, during that process, Wally and I decided we were going to continue with this. We had a fun time, so let's do more. So we went down to Roanoke County. Wendy Schultz was the director of activities for Roanoke County Parks and Rec, and we talked to her about we showed up in our Viking gear, and that's what the front desk. You've got a couple of Vikings out here. Do you want to come out? And Wally's a big guy, and I'm a tall guy, and
check your axe at the
we
door.
just fell in love with each other. I loved Wendy. Wendy was wonderful.
Yeah.
So she got me involved in the Ren Fair and everything that they had. Every touch a truck, we'd show up with our Viking boat. Whatever it was, the New Year celebration in Vinton, we were there at that facility.
Okay.
So we just did all kinds of crazy stuff that didn't match up with who we were as Vikings, but we didn't care. We can go anywhere we want to. We're Vikings.
Yeah.
So with Wally and I, we started developing this thing. Then in 2007, I think it was, or 8, sometimes these numbers get mixed up in my head, we were invited to do the St. Patrick's Parade.
Dun, dun,
So we
dun.
said, sure, we'd like to do that. And then the young lady, this is when it was run by Event Zone. Okay, different. I don't remember the lady, it may be Sherry, but at any rate. After we talked and I said, sure, we do it. And then she goes, now, how am I going to explain to the Irish why we have Vikings in the parade? And I said, no problem. Let me tell you a little bit about your history. And so I started whittling it down. So we've been in Ireland since 795. We developed all of your coastal cities. Dublin was founded by the Vikings. Waterford, Wexford, Cork, Limerick were all founded by Vikings as what we call long forts, raiding platforms to go into the interior. So anything else you want to know about your country? I'll be happy to tell you. So we got out there and we started doing this, and we had different crews every year. Different crews, different group of people would come in. In 2010, and you have 2 trophies here. In 2010, we won Best Irish Theme Trophy. Well, we have friends at the St. Patrick's Parade that are a part of a group called the St. Brendan Society. They've been involved in it forever. And we have a friend named Jim Baldwin, who does all the music and does the Celtic Festival where all the music is. He's in charge of all of that. We became friends. And so every year we would set up a booth, and then we wouldn't have to, we weren't charged for it because we were in the parade, and they would give us all kinds of extras and stuff. But after we won the trophy, we said, okay, that trophy's fine and everything. What about free beer? So that first year, they gave us tickets for free beer. I said, okay, that's
little
all
perk.
right. Next year, they gave us a trophy again in 2011.
Back to back.
But they wouldn't give us any more free beer because apparently we drank too much the first time.
I think I know where this is going.
So in 2012, we did not win the trophy because we had this habit of stopping at this bar, Flannery's Irish Pub,
Jefferson
on the parade route. And we would stop in front of the pub, go inside, and have a Guinness, holding up the whole parade.
So now I was going to ask you, that's not an urban myth. You guys did that.
Oh, yeah.
Every year. Until they closed down.
Yeah.
Yes, they
every
closed
year.
down.
And every year we were expecting not to get
We didn't have
invited
anything
back.
to do with that.
And
though.
every
Them
time there
closing
was
down.
we
didn't have anything to do with that.
standing there in the middle of the bar for us to come in and grab your beer, pound it, and get back out.
So they're waiting for you.
Yeah.
And you come in and get your beer, the parade stops.
But we have to get through the crowd to get to her.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they changed it. And they would meet us at the railing that separated the bar from the street.
Yes.
And they would have it handed out to us to speed up the process.
Okay.
Not because we asked them to. They were just doing it because they knew that we were getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Not real trouble.
But yeah,
But
smooth
there were
it out a little
conversations
bit.
about it.
Yes,
You know, we don't know if you want you doing this, and I don't care. It's hard to down a pint of Guinness, cold Guinness. It's not easy to drink that down. It just doesn't work. It freezes up your throat. So then there were a few times where they had to keep going, and we were still in there, and then we'd have to run down the street and catch up. Not really run, but walk quickly.
Yeah.
Carrying our ale and our beer.
And trying to
In our
meander the
corns.
boat past the floats that passed us.
Yeah, okay.
Get back in line.
When it changed to Downtown Roanoke Inc., they didn't know who we were. They invited us, and then we went down and I talked to them, and I told them what we do, and I said, you can call them shenanigans, But we're going to do the things we do, and if you don't like it, you're welcome to tell us not to come back. I said, we don't cause trouble for anybody. But that same year, it was a cold morning, and we had made friends with a coffee company, Mill Mountain.
Mill Mountain
Coffee,
yes.
and they brought us out these big canisters of coffee and something to go with it, which made it an Irish coffee.
Okay.
And so we started working it out, and then I probably shouldn't say this, but
you're getting all these people in trouble.
some other people in official capacities came around and got some of theirs as well.
Yeah, all right.
Both law enforcement and others. And he said, "Is that Irish coffee?" I said, "Oh yeah." Okay. So again, shenanigans. We didn't cause any problem.
Yeah.
At least nobody knew about it till just now.
Stay warm.
Yeah.
So,
It's important.
and then we complained about McDonald's sponsoring the event because they wouldn't bring us coffee, biscuits, or anything. And we said, "What are you calling McDonald's for? I mean, other than your clown, what else are you offering us? We do this for free. We should at least get something out of it. Your restaurant, bring us biscuits and coffee. How much is that going to cost?" So that was a little controversial. I probably shouldn't have said that. But
security and local colors.
Well, I've talked about that. I haven't even got into that. Okay, so now that's St. Patrick's. Now we're still doing it to this day. We're still doing the parades and all of that to this day. Local colors, which is our primary event, because we ended up doing all the festivals. We did the Vinton Dogwood Parade. We would do the Latino Festival. We would do the Festival for India. We do the Greek Festival and show up in our Viking gear and be Vikings. And people say, "Why are Vikings here?" And let me tell you a little bit about your history.
Yeah.
And even though there is no history, I would make it up. And they didn't know their own history, so how could they deny it?
Sounds good to me.
So, yeah, we were in India. Sure we were. We were. Where do you think the legend of Quetzalcoatl comes from? The bearded man that comes in a ship with wings? Viking, obviously.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like a Viking to me.
yeah. So we would. These are the things that we would do. But with local colors, it got to the point where I just fell in love with Pearl Fu.
Yes.
Whose Fu means dragon. So here's another connection.
Didn't know that.
I said, I'm a dragon slayer. She goes, "Oh, please don't kill me, mighty Viking." I said, "Not today. Not today. We have work to do." So I became her escort. I would go in my full Viking gear. I would take her out to these events down at the Roanoke Hotel or wherever, where people are dressed to the nines in tuxedos and stuff. I'd show up in my Viking gear and drink from my horn.
Varangian Guard.
Yeah, I was her Varangian Guard, which is the Viking Northern European warriors that went to Constantinople and served the emperor and became known as the Varangian Guard and continued up until the 1200s.
Okay.
So Pearl Fu and I connected right away, and because I'd pick on her and laugh with her and flirt with her, and she just loved that.
Yeah.
Because she's so wonderful.
She was a sweetheart.
She's just so wonderful.
Yeah.
And so we would start going out to all these things. We would go to multicultural events. We would go to Roanoke College, Hollins. We would do events at the universities, multicultural events where we would sit at a table, and she would represent China, I'd represent Scandinavia in its totality, and I'd include the islands and things, the Hebrides, the Orkneys, the Shetlands, all the islands where the Vikings had settled. And we would do this all the time during the week. I had my own business, so I was able to, I could cut loose if I needed to. And all of this just became my life. This was my life. I was in Viking gear 4 or 5 days out of every week. I was doing something, whether it was a whole day event or an evening event or a daytime event, something. And it was all about promoting multiculturalism, but not multiculturalism the way it's looked at today,
right,
but the appreciation of other cultures, which is how I look at it. Vikings are curious folk. They're adventurous folk.
Yes.
They want to see the world. They want to interact with other people, and they did.
Yes.
Our whole history is based on that. Our enthusiasm for other cultures, our curiosity about what's beyond that horizon. That's what we wanted to give to people, that concept.
HB, I was listening to a documentary on Vikings, but the Vikings sailed out of Scandinavia, They went to England, Spain, Italy, I think Kiev, Russia.
They founded Kiev.
Yeah, founded Kiev. And they invaded Paris, from what I could tell.
Several times.
So they got around.
A little bit. And they crossed the Atlantic Ocean to Iceland, to Greenland, and then to Newfoundland, which Lonesome Meadows is what the site that they have found, and they found other sites in the area now since that time because of the ability from the sky to look down and find things that we never had before.
Well, touch on that for just a second, Jeff and John and Matt. Eric the Red founded Greenland.
Correct.
And maybe Iceland, or no?
No, he came from Iceland, but actually he was run out of Norway because he killed somebody.
So he's run out there.
And then he went to Iceland, and he was run out of Iceland because he killed somebody.
Right.
And then he went west, hoping to find the land that he was told about. And when he did find it, he found that there was only a very small sliver of it that was habitable. But he went back to Iceland and said, "Hey, I found this green land. And it's wonderful, and there's lots of farmland. Nobody's there. There's raise your crops, raise your animals, your livestock. It'll be great. You're going to love this." So they set off. I don't remember how many ships exactly, but not all of them made it. And when they got there, they said, "Well, okay, it's summertime. It's not so bad. You know, we can live with this. You know, they're used to that harsh environment anyway." And at that time, it was warmer. Okay, so it wasn't like it even is today. It was actually warmer then, so there was more habitable land, but all on the west coast, the southwest coast of Greenland, nowhere else. Big sheets of ice and glaciers everywhere. From there, his son, who was told by another individual who had been driven off course that there was further land to the west. And so Leif, and there's two stories about this. The Greenland saga and Eric the Red saga. These are in the Icelandic sagas, 2 tombs, or 1, but I have it in 2, that tell the family histories of the people that went to Iceland, which is verifiable to this day. Their ancestors are living in Iceland today. So there's great history. It's a history that no other people have. No one else has a history of people, family histories like that, with that in-depth information. Included in the Icelandic sagas are historical events fleshed out that we only have mention of in, like, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. This battle happened on this date. The Annals of Ulster from Ireland. This happened on this date, and a little bit more information, and others of this type that are found in Europe, but not fleshed out. So the Battle of Brunanburg, which is a huge battle in England to figure out who's going to rule England in 937. The Battle of Clontarf between Brian Boru and the last of the Vikings that were moving in, Sihtric Silkbeard, who was ruling over Dublin, the king of Dublin. He was a Viking. So that history is fleshed out. We have more from the Icelandic sagas than we do from any other source about those key battles that changed the history of Northern Europe, at least that portion of Northern Europe.
And so it's clear then that the first European explorers to hit North America were Vikings.
By almost 500 years, predating Columbus.
Predating Columbus. Yeah. And
with one exception, and it's mythological.
All right.
It could be that there were some Irish folk that may have made it over. We don't know that. It is also possible Phoenicians made it over. Okay. We don't know that for sure, but there are some people that would argue that.
But there is evidence of settlements in Newfoundland?
Yes.
Okay.
That's absolutely verifiable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 500 years before Columbus. And the thing is, Columbus was talking to those people. Bear in mind now, there was already a trade going across from Iceland to Greenland. And although they didn't really go any further west after that, because of just ice flows and things like that will tear up a ship, they really were relying more on Iceland, and Iceland relying on Europe.
What are some of the maybe misconceptions about Vikings that you come across in your teachings and your
research? The most common one is there's no horns on their helmets.
There's no horns on
their helmets. There's no horns on the
So that's just like a cartoon thing.
That comes from the great plays.
The Wagner.
Oh, yes.
Wagner plays.
The Victorian,
That's where the horned helmet comes from. So that's another
That's a misconception.
That's probably the
myth.
most common. Yeah.
And you brought a helmet, I believe.
Is this it?
Yeah,
This is,
that's probably your most common infantry style helmet, if you would.
Yeah.
Now, would that protect your?
Your noggin and your
So what
the nose,
what you're holding in your right hand is the nose guard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So nose.
That helmet is called a conical helmet with a nasal guard.
nasal. Okay.
And then some of them have like ear flaps or
Yes,
visors.
some
cheek,
would have-
cheek flaps.
Or
and neck guards.
chainmail curtain that was on the back side would also be, something plausible.
Yeah.
Now, do you have an axe as well?
Yeah, they got some hardware here.
I brought a couple of weapons that are known weapons, name weapons. So this has a covering on the blade. This is known as a bearded axe. And it's called that because the shape is flat at the top and then it comes down in the front and nothing in between the haft and the tip of the blade. And so it has the shape of a beard. So it's called a bearded axe. Now, this weapon is used not only to clunk somebody in the head, but also because of the shape, you can pull the shield away.
Okay.
And then go
That's
into a
what the
strike.
hook on it more or less is for.
Yes.
Okay.
And also weapons. Clean weapons out of the way and then come back with a strike.
Have
So-
y'all ever participated or in axe throwing contests? You might be pretty good at it.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
In fact, John?
Yeah, I just got back from Florida on vacation, and I went to my first official axe throwing place, and they had 3 types of axes to throw, and so they had more of the tomahawk style and sort of the Revolutionary War era period throwing hatchets, but then they had what they called the Vikings style, and it was a bearded axe. And very different. I mean, you have to throw that one a lot harder because there's a lot more metal on the
more
axe
mass.
head. Yeah. So, but yeah, I did well with it. I had a little bit of practice just out at festivals.
Yeah.
We have champions. We have folks that are really good at it. Split is very good at archery. He's a weapons master. He's a martial artist. 4th degree or 5th?
Third.
Your 3rd degree.
Third degree.
I'm advancing.
I wouldn't put me on a pedestal of master, but I have dabbled in the
good.
trade for some time.
All right.
So with weapons, we were talking about this earlier, but the bearded axe is a type of axe. There's another type of axe that we carry that's a throwing axe. Specifically, this you could throw, but you wouldn't want to. It's a heavier body. You want to hold it in your hand and smack somebody with it. But there's a type of an axe that's called a Francesca, which is beautifully made. It has a great shape to it, kind of like a wave, and then it's got its edge, and you throw that. That was the key weapon of the Franks, a Germanic tribe, a confederation of tribes called the Franks. They were named for that weapon. The Franks then founded that nation we call France. So that's an origin. This next one, this is a long knife, but they come in different lengths. This is called a sais or saison. Or sax. This is a ubiquitous weapon of Northern Europe. Everyone had this. It's a tool. The axe is a tool. The sax is a tool. And a spear is a tool. A bow and arrow is a tool. A sword is not.
Sword is a
Pull
weapon.
out the Viking sword.
Yeah. All right.
Now this is
it's
a
got it.
true historical Viking sword. This is real. It's Damascus steel or folded,
Pattern welded.
This is a real sharp Viking sword.
How long?
36 inches is pretty much the norm.
How heavy is it?
2.5 pounds.
Yeah.
Put it in his hand.
It's not.
Not there.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's a
And it's
one-hander.
long.
Now,
So
do not
be
touch the
careful.
blade. It's quite sharp.
Yeah.
This is so nice.
Yeah.
You could knight somebody.
Now, it's kind of fun to hold that, isn't it? Now, you've seen these in movies, and you've seen them in, or you may have, everyone's been to some museum or something, and you've seen artifacts, and
Yes.
you've seen
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Well, the programs we do, that we've done at Local Colors, that we've done in the schools, is we bring all this with us, and the children get to put it on.
What?
We have ring mail they can put on. We
Wow.
have helmets they can put on. Swords in a controlled environment that they can actually swing around. We just recently did Roanoke College Dragon Festival. They have that every year. We started it with them in 2016, I think it was, with Dorothy Bill Pulley, the professor of biology there, who had found a fossil, a plant fossil, that looks exactly like a dragon. If you were to see it and not know, you would say, oh, it's a flying dragon. Here's the skeletal structure, the tail, the wings. It's a plant. So, when we were asked the questions of the origins of things, where did the concept of the dragon come from? Is it a racial memory? Did we actually have dinosaurs in the history of mankind? Not supposedly. But where did it come from? Where did the dragon come from?
And why is it a worldwide
Yeah,
phenomenon?
why is it worldwide?
China, Europe.
Was it a serpent? Is that kind of
Well, serpent is mostly used in all mythologies.
Right.
Usually it's a serpent or serpentine-like creature.
Yeah.
Okay, all of the Asians are serpentine.
Yes.
The classic European dragon is the heavy-bodied, four-limbed,
legs.
with wings, flying dragon, with breathing fire. But there's only one dragon in all of Norse myths that fits that description, and that's the one in Beowulf, which was heavily influenced by Christian concepts.
Okay.
So we don't know if that's legitimate.
Right.
The dragon in the Sigurd saga, the Volsunga saga, is more of a serpentine dragon, but he does have four limbs. So more like a Komodo dragon in the way it looks. Other than that, there's only a couple of others that meet the definition, basically, of a dragon. One is Nidog, which is the dragon that lives at the base of the world tree Yggdrasil and gnaws at its roots, and also gnaws on the soul structure of those who were oath breakers and just bad people that wash up on
Where
swords
he
of
lives may
Mistral.
be comparable to a certain level of hell.
Yeah, conceptually.
Yeah.
And then Jormungandr. Jormungandr is the Midgard serpent, surrounds the entire world. One day it found something flipping around the water and it attacked it and bit it. And it hurt. It thought it was being attacked in return, so it bit it again and it hurt. So it attacked it again and then held on to it. It wouldn't let go. It was its own tail.
Oh, no wonder.
Not a bright serpent,
Yeah.
quite large. This is all part of our mythologies.
I never watched it, but I heard there was a dragon or two in the series Game of Thrones.
Absolutely. And all that came from Lord of the Rings, all based on Norse and Celtic mythologies.
Oh.
Every bit of it. Gandalf is listed in the name of dwarves. It means magic staff or magic
Wind elf.
elf. Yeah, wind elf.
Wind elf.
All of those names of the dwarves that you have in the Lord of the Rings are all listed in the Voluspa.
Yeah.
Elves come from Alfheim.
Yeah.
All
of it.
The elves are that's a Scandinavian creation, like the concept of an elf, and dwarves too, as a magical creature, a magical dwarf that the blacksmith that makes magical weapons. That's all Scandinavian.